broadcasting. Yards, touchdowns, shut your mouth, broadcasting. First round draft pick, believe we got stats, kid. Quarterback stacking, 100-yard dashing. So tap in for the action. What teams got traction?
Welcome to the Sim Podcast Show. I'm your co-host Eric, and I'm always joined by my co-host Ron. What up, Ron?
What's going on?
And you know what today is? Today is the New York Giants review. And for that special New York Giants review, we got a special guest on the podcast. He goes by the name of Chris, New York's finest. What up, Chris?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you for enlightening us on what is going on with the New York Giants. Let's not even, should we even review what they did last year? Chris, in your own words, what did they do last year? We went
9-8-1, right? And I think it's a lot better than what a lot of people did. A lot of people thought we were going to do. I felt like we probably should have came out of there with 11 wins. The tie shouldn't have been a tie. But I definitely feel like we exceeded a lot of people's expectations, especially with Daboll being a first-year head coach.
Yeah, I think you definitely overachieved. Would you say that? It was
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
With everything, with a makeshift offensive line, with Saquon getting hurt, right, with a lack of weapons on, both sides of the ball, I feel like we did way better than what people thought we would have done.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail. It was definitely a overachievement performance, but then is that going to carry over into this year, Chris? And that's something that we're going to talk about during this podcast. So let's just dive right into it. Let's go and look at the quarterback position. Danny Dimes. Chris, what was your grade on Danny Dimes?
This year, my grade on Daniel Jones is, I give him a C+, man. I feel like he started coming into his own a little bit. I'm excited for this year. He'll have a second year in with Mike Kafka, which is big, right? I feel like he's definitely a dual threat in a sense to where he can make short throws, right? But I think he was only making short throws because we didn't have weapons. And now, I think everyone has to respect his feet, right? I think on the offensive side of the ball for the Giants, you have to account for 11 players, right? There are some, teams that you only have to account for 10 because the quarterback isn't really anything. But I think for the Giants, you have to account for Daniel Jones because if he takes off on the option or a scramble or just extending a play, I think, he's getting his just due. So I rated him a C+. It's a big year for him. We gave him a 4-year, 160. So he has to do something, right? He has to be better than he was last year. He has to throw more touchdowns. And I think Kafka is going to put the ball in his hands a lot more.
Ron, you also gave him a C. Do you agree with everything that Chris just said?
Yeah, I think the talent has always been there. It's just him putting it together. Second year with this coach, I think we'll continue to see improvement. I think as far as talent, he has tools to be a top, I'd say 10 quarterback in the league. Can he be consistent? I think consistency is the word. And the question I'll have as we get later on is, does he have enough tools around him to be successful too?
Listen, I know looking at my grade, last year I gave him an F, which looking back, it was harsh. And he did prove me wrong with his performance. This year, I was going to give him a C, but I went to a D. And not because of his performance. This has nothing to do with Daniel Jones. It has more to do with the Giants front office. Because in my heart, he's not worth $160 million. He's just not. I know what you're going to say, Ron. Yes. You're going to say that's the market. That's the market.
Is what the market is.
Dictates all that and blah, blah, blah. And listen, I understand all that. He's still not worth $160 million.
Listen, I don't think any of these quarterbacks are worth what they're getting.
You're right in that sense, right? Like, he's not worth 160 million. I think it's twofold. He's not worth 160 million, but like Ron would say, the market dictates it, right? But then, as this is going to be really painful for me to say, right? But it's a lot easier to find a running back, right? Because their shelf life is shorter than it is to find a quarterback. That's just the nature of the game. Like, they're not getting beat up as much as a running back is. So is it easier for them to pay the quarterback and hold on to him longer? Because if you don't have a quarterback on your team, it takes so much longer to rebuild. You can get a running back, even though Saquon is a generational back, right? And I love him to death. It's a lot easier to find someone like Saquon or another Saquon than it is to find, like what Ron said, is a potential top 10, top 12 quarterback in the league. It's you can't do it.
Listen, I wouldn't pay Justin Herbert what he's getting, or Lamar what he's getting, or Jalen, any of those top guys. But the market is what it is. And, if you want a starting franchise quarterback, you got to pay him. I think, obviously, the Giants are in a position where it was either you have faith in him and you pay him what he's worth, or you let him go and you start with a rookie, start all over. I think they made the right choice. They don't get to take pay what the price is. That's what it is.
I just feel like, yes, their options, if any, was very limited. If any, I don't think they had an option, obviously, because they paid them. But I just don't feel. I mean, Chris, you're a Giants fan. Can Daniel Jones get you to the Super Bowl?
Potentially, I think he can, right? I think there needs to be some evolution of weapons, right? Some more weapons, or, a top-end wide receiver, right? But I think inevitably he can, right? I think our defense is starting to line up as it should. So could he get us there? Yeah, I think so. The one thing I want to circle back on what you said, Sir, was like the grade you gave wasn't because of Daniel Jones. It was because of the front office. Where I think the front office, especially this offseason, Joe Schoen is arguably top 3 GM in the league with everything that he's done, with the minimal amount of cap space, the low picks that he's gotten. If you think about it, we signed Daniel Jones, we re-signed Saquon, we got Darren Waller, we got Isaiah Simmons, we got John Michael Schmitz, we got Jalen Hyatt, we got people. And he did it with the leftovers that Dave Gettleman had, right? So I don't think you can give an assessment on the front office of the Giants, because I think the front office of the Giants did a heck of a job this offseason.
Well, we'll talk about the defense, Chris, because the defense, I think, underperformed last year, and they had a easy schedule last year, and they still, in my opinion, underperformed, but we'll get to that. Let's just get to the wide receivers. Chris, what did you give the wideouts?
So I got the wideouts at a C. I think they're an average group. I don't think we don't have a solid one, right? So we'll have a mix of Slayton and Shepard, even though he's injury prone. I like Paris Campbell for speed. And then I like, Jalen Hyatt too. I think coming out of Tennessee, I think he's gonna play some big things for us. What I like about the front office and what they're doing right now is they're not drafting and they're not getting people per position. They're looking at athletes, right? And they're getting fast athletes too, because you can't teach speed. So if you look at all the other people in the league, like the Miamis or the Kansas Cities, they're getting these skill position players that are fast, right? And if you can't catch them, we should be able to score as long as we hold up on the offensive line piece and everything like that. But I like what we're doing. We may not have key marquee players, but having a bunch of solid role players could be, just as impactful as having, one big name wide receiver.
What do you think, Ron? Do you think not having a number one is going to hurt this team?
Yeah, to me, it's the same argument I made when we did the Pats review. If you put a bunch of 2s and 3s out there, your offense is going to struggle a little bit. You have to have that guy, and they don't have that guy at receiver yet. Now, it's still early, right? they can maybe draft one next year and develop them or whatever. So they still got time. It's going to be harder now with Daniel getting that contract and stuff to sign players, but that's what they're missing. And I talked earlier about weapon. If they had a number one option, and I do like the tight ends, we'll get to that in a sec, but if they had a number one receiver, someone who's just a dog, I would rate them higher, but to me, they're slightly below average. I think too much pressure is on players like Hyatt, who's a rookie, Wendell Robinson. I don't think he played last year, right?
He got hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt the whole year, so he's coming back from injury. Too much pressure on those young guys. They need to have like a stud veteran. They don't have that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I went with a D because same things that you guys just mentioned. There's not a number one. They have a bunch of number twos. I do like Isaiah Hodgins a lot. I really like him, but he's unproven, right? We don't know what he's going to be capable of. And if we're saying, well, he's capable of being number one, that's really not good enough until he actually does it and you're like confident that Daniel Jones has a true weapon. I'm not talking about the Darren Waller. I'm talking about a true number one wide receiver. I just don't see it. I think that they're going to lean heavily on Saquon Barkley. That's just my opinion. And speaking of Saquon Barkley, what did you give the running backs, Chris?
So I gave the running backs a B, all because of Saquon. I don't really feel like we have a lot of depth there, right? But I think Saquon, just being Saquon within itself, brings us there. If we would have kept James Robinson, I would have put us up at like an A because I feel like he's a decent back to have. He was a 1,000-yard rusher for the Jags. And I like, oh my God, his name has just slipped my mind. The guy we got from San Francisco.
Breida.
Yeah, I like Matt Breida. I think Matt Breida is a good third down back, right? And he's fast and stuff like that. But like I said, I don't feel like I don't think we have enough depth at running back. I mean, I don't necessarily think you'll need it with Saquon, even though a lot of these teams are going by like running back by committee. But I think we're a B. I think we're a solid B. I think we have top 5 running back in the game for sure if he's healthy. Top 3 when he's healthy for sure, but definitely top 5.
Yeah. Ron, you gave him an A.
Yeah.
You like this running back group?
Well, I did when they had James Robinson. I filled this out a couple of weeks ago. It didn't make sense that they dropped him. I thought that he was going to be huge for them this year, and I don't know what their backup plan is. I guess we'll find out in the next week or so. But Saquon, I love Saquon. I think he's the best back in the league. No disrespect to Derrick Henry or not any of those other guys. I just think Saquon is like a once-in-a-lifetime running back. And, I'll say that till stop playing. I think when healthy, he's
so basically 2 years.
Hall of Famer. I think that's how good he is.
Disrespect.
Yeah. So, if he stays healthy, I think they'll be fine. If he gets hurt, then they're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be a one-dimensional team unless, Daniel Jones really steps up. But Saquon, I went from an A to a B for that same reason. Because James Robinson, even though the Patriots dropped him, they traded for him and then they dropped him. And I don't know if that injury was concerning enough for the Patriots, and I don't know why the Giants all of a sudden dropped him. Because I think he's a pretty good running back. I think Matt Breida, it's in that level, maybe a notch underneath, but if you have Barkley, I mean, what else do you need? Like you said, as long as he's healthy, you're going to win game no matter what.
Yeah.
So let's go to the tight ends. Chris, what did you give him?
I gave him a B. I like Darren Waller, of course. I think Darren Waller is going to be a huge X factor for us, and I think that's going to help us circumvent not having a one receiver. If you think about, just Giants history, we've always been solid at the tight end level, from Mark Bavaro days, Jeremy Shockey, right? And now we can go into like the Evan Ingram era, right? I mean, Evan Ingram, sorry, the Darren Waller era. Even Evan Ingram was good for a short period of time. But then we have the Darren Waller era, right? And I think if he can remain healthy as well, I feel like that's going to be the big piece, right? Because the best ability is availability. If he can stay healthy, man, it's going to open up so much stuff because now you have to account for him. And then you got Daniel Bellinger on the other side. And I don't know if you guys seen Daniel Bellinger in the offseason, but that dude turned into a genetic freak. He's huge, man. He got so big. And he's just a tough-nosed guy to play. So I'm a big fan of both of them. And if we can implement something where we have two tight ends out there, right, and both of them can block, and then you can put, you can split out Darren Waller, and he becomes like a mismatch for the linebackers, or even some of the DBs that are going to try to guard him. It's going to open up a lot of passing lanes for other people, the running lanes for Saquon. So I give him a B.
Ron, what'd you give the tight end?
I gave an A. Waller is a top 5 tight end in the league when healthy. No doubt about that in my mind. And I agree with everything he said about Bellinger too. I think that two of them are studs. I think Waller is going to be, assuming he's healthy, a huge impact to that offense. It's going to make a big difference to the offense. I still think they need a receiver, an outside option. But I think Waller is, if he's healthy, he's probably a lock for 1,000 yards.
I like Darren Waller a lot. I think he's probably going to be Jones' number one option, to be honest with you. I do see him racking up 1,000 yards catching. I think Bellinger put in all that extra weight, all that extra muscle, because he's not really a catching tight end. I mean, he's mainly there to block for Saquon Barkley. I think that's Saquon Barkley is option one, and then if that's not there, Darren Waller is option two. And I think you should win games with that combination. If your defense is up to par, I don't know if the defense is there yet. We're going to talk about it, but before we get to the defense, let's talk about the O-line. Chris, what was your grade for the O-line?
I'm giving the O-line a B. I think Andrew Thomas is arguably a top 5 tackle in the league. Evan Neal kind of underperformed last year, right? I don't know if it's rookie jitters or not, but I feel like he'll be better this season coming in. And then I'm a huge fan of John Michael Schmidt, and I know we'll talk about what rookies we like more later on, but having a solid left tackle, a solid right tackle, and a solid center, that's big. That's really big, right? So I give him a B, really off the strength of Andrew Thomas, right, carrying the load. But I feel like the offensive line we're going to have is going to be pretty solid. It's not going to be makeshift. We're not going to have to, try to figure out where we can stick people. And again, it goes back into the same thing we've been saying. They remain healthy. I think we can have a solid offensive line.
Ron, what do you think about this offensive line?
Probably not as sold on them. I gave them a C. I think they're middle of the pack, if you will. I think they're an average line. They got to stay healthy. We'll see how they do.
I went with the C because, Evan Neal, you can just throw away his rookie season because I don't know if that was the best of him. I think he's in the same boat with Andrew Thomas. They kind of develop players, and they're not even on the practice squad. These are actually your starting offensive line are developing people as you go. Basically, you're playing, but you're also getting better. That's not a good combination in my eyes. I think that
they're young, right? So
do you want Jones to be running for his life every time he goes back? No, you don't want that.
Andrew Thomas was an all-pro tackle, right? I mean, he if you look at the stats for him, he had a great year last year. Great year.
That's
not a good year. He had a great year.
That's why Neal's playing right tackle, not left tackle. So
you got your best. You always put your best person at the left tackle position, right? That's him, and I think he's going to anchor it. And then Schmidt, JMS he's he hit the ground running, right? He came out and he's been the number one center for us since he came in. And I think that's going to be solid for us. I think he's going to perform really, really well. He performed well during the preseason. I get it. It's just preseason. But I think momentum is a real thing, right? If you can carry that through the season, the week one is going to be the tell. Right? That's going to be it, right? Let's see how you do.
Yes, and I like Smith. I think Smith was a good center. Andrew Thomas, same thing. The rest of the crew needs to mesh, right? Definitely Evan Neal needs to have a better year. I feel like you have Daniel Jones, overpaid. You have Saquon Barkley, you have Darren Waller. You have good weapon. But again, same thing. I want to see the O-line kind of develop and be better. I wanted to see some improvement before I graded them higher than a C. Let's go to defense, because defense is where I had a second look and I was like, maybe I don't feel as good about the defense. Let's talk about the linebackers. Ron, before we get to Chris, Ron, you gave them a D. Why did you give them a D?
I actually just changed it. I just changed it again, just to put it all out there. I did this about a month ago. Things have changed. They got Simmons now, so I just I raised it to a C, and honestly, I think it could be better. Simmons is obviously a huge pickup for them. I think they needed it. You know what it is?
Seventh round pickup.
Yeah. You know what it is? I've never been sold on Thibodeau. I need to see what he's going to give us this year. I'm not sold on him. I think he needs to be where he's drafted. He has to be a double-digit sack guy, 15 or right around that. I don't see him giving them that.
Chris, what did you rank the linebackers?
I got him at a C, but it's a high C, like teetering closer to a B. I'm a big fan of Thibodeau, actually. I like his motor. I like how he gets off the ball, right? I think you have to account for him, without a doubt. And then Isaiah Simmons is a huge pickup for us. I mean, talk about a hybrid player. I think he can be all over the field, but I think we're going to have him rushing off the ball. And then we picked up Bobby Okikike, right? Like, he's a tackling machine, right? He gives me a lot of like Antonio Pierce vibes, right? And when Antonio Pierce was leading that defense for us, I mean, we're a pretty solid defense. So I'm giving the linebacking core a high C. To Ron's point, I think if everyone plays to their ability, I think they'll creep into like the B spot.
I went with it was going to be a B, and then I changed it to a C because they didn't do that well against the run last year. I think they were ranked 28th overall against the run. And I was like, this is where I know that it's the defensive line's job, but your linebackers were getting pushed back every time they went for a run. So I just want to see that consistency. And I think that with the pickup, with the inside linebackers, I want to see them stuff some people. That's why I went from a B to a C. But again, the schedule makers were not as good last year as they are this year. I think they're going to have real competition this year, especially in a division where you have the Eagles and you have the Cowboys and you have the we're not going to talk about the Commanders. I don't know what to call them because they don't even know what to call themselves. I think I saw like a online like, hey, why don't we change it back to the Redskins? I was like, hey, why don't we just call the N-word to everybody that plays out there?
They shot that down real quick.
Oh my God, I don't even know, but I'm digressing. Let's talk about the cornerback. Chris, what'd you give the cornerback?
Oh, I think this is our chink in the armor, right? I think this is our weak spot. I give him a C, right? Only because we got Deonte Banks, right, out of Maryland. Otherwise, I would have put us at like a D. because I need more from Adoree, right? I need more from Xavier McKinney. Like, I need these people to play well, and they just didn't, right? But I think it was a perfect storm last year, right? Like, we had a lot of injuries on the defensive line, a lot of injuries at linebacker. So when you can't get that rush from your front seven, it's really hard to play corner, right? It's really hard to mimic people's moves down the field and breaking away and stuff like that. So I'm going to give them a C, right? But reserve the right to drop them down if they don't play too well.
Ron, what grade did you give the cornerbacks?
Yeah, I was flip-flopping a little bit here too. I initially gave him a D, and then I switched to a C, and I'm thinking maybe I need to leave him a D, but I love Deonte Banks. I think he's one of the top corners that came out. He was rumored to be going to the Steelers, before we traded up to get Broderick Jones. I think he's a stud. The other guys behind him, the guys that have been there, I wasn't sold on them last year. What did I give them last year? I think I gave them C last year. C last year. So, I think Deonte is going to be a little bit of improvement for them, but I think this is an area they're going to have to address.
I actually gave him a D only because, and I know Deonte Banks should help some of those issues. At least he should grab the number one receiver for the other team. But then you have nickel. What's your dime package? Who are you throwing out there? You just have all these people. Do you have depth? I don't like what they did. I know, and the New York Giants shouldn't have a problem paying people. I feel like the GM for the New York Giants has some restrictions, which really he shouldn't, because it's the New York Giants. I mean, who owns the Giants? The Mara family, right, Chris?
The Mara and Tisch family. But that's a big problem too, right? Because they're like the Hatfields and the McCoys, man. They don't get along. The problem with it, so Joe Schoen, he's done everything that he's could with what he's had, right? So David Gettleman, who was our GM previously, he's the one that dropped the bag for us. I mean, he's the one that bid against himself to get Kenny Galladay and like all this other crazy stuff, right? Like, the best thing that he did was make the trade to where the Bears were able to get Justin Fields, and we got that additional draft pick, which led to Evan Neal and Avon Thibodeau. Like, that's the best thing that he did. Other than that, he put us in just a financial struggle, and now Joe Schoen is trying to figure that out. Because if he didn't do that, we wouldn't have had any problems paying for Saquon. We wouldn't have had any problems paying for Daniel Jones. So it's not this GM. I think this GM is doing a phenomenal job with the cards he was dealt. And it's just Dave Gettleman screwed us when he was our GM. He wasn't a good GM in Carolina either. I don't understand why we paid him, why we took him.
Listen, I don't want to hate on Gettleman too much, but he did hire Joe Judge as a head coach, and that should never happen. That should have never happened.
Trash.
I don't care how prepared he showed up and how pumped New York fan base was the first year. He's just terrible, and I know he's on the Pats coaching staff, and I know he stays there even though I think he might still get paid by the Giants. Didn't you guys give him a 4-year, 3-year contract? So
I don't know, man. I try to forget that time.
you try to erase it out of your mind. He's basically coaching for the Pats for free. So listen,
he got like a Bobby Bonilla deal, man. Like,
he's just collecting checks, even though he's done with the Giants. He's collecting check while coaching the Pats. All right, what, Chris, did you give the safeties?
So I think it falls in the same realm, right? I think they fall into the C space. I think Xavier McKinney is a beast, but that's all we have is Xavier McKinney, right? Like, we don't have anybody else besides him. I think the other guy we have is Jason Pinnock, and I don't think he's proven enough. So just off the strength of Xavier McKinney, I'm going to put us at a C, because I really like him, right? Like, I feel like he's like a young stud at the safety position for sure. So I'm gonna give them a C.
Ron, did you change it or did you keep it?
I left it at a D this time. I like McKinney. I think it's his second year, right? In the league, the second or third, I can't remember, but he's solid. But the guys behind him, I have never heard of him, to be honest with you. So, I gave them a D. I think again, defensive back is going to be one of those positions that they're going to have to address at some point with youth. It's going to have to be in the draft because the way the contracts are now with paying quarterback, you have to find some young talent to develop those guys. So it's going to be another 2-3 years before they're able to put like some of those pieces together.
Yeah, we're gonna have to give them like some time, right? I think that's the biggest thing, and I don't mean time like it's experience in the league. I think it's more of the Thibodeaux of the world, the Dexter Lawrences, right? The Leonard Williams, like all those people in that front seven. They have to bring pressure because if we don't, and Wink should be bringing pressure, especially with like Isaiah Simmons in there now, right? So if we can get to that quarterback quick, it's gonna take all the pressure off the DBs, right? If we're not strong there, we can't have them chasing around these wide receivers forever because that's where we start falling apart.
Yeah, I give them the same grade as I did the corners. I went with a D, but then I moved it up to a C because I think that, again, the front seven, even though overall your defense was not that good last year, but you won games. So go figure. I feel like, yeah, there were close games, and there was a couple of games where I saw that the defense gave over 200 yards passing. And I mean, that's like the league average. I think it might be 300, but I think they did a good average job. I just don't feel like it was phenomenal where it was a shutdown defense. And that's basically what we want. We want a shutdown defense, especially if you have a running back like Saquon Barkley. Chris, what grade did you give on the D-line?
So the D-line is probably the strongest spot for me. I give him a B. I really like Big Cat. I really like Dexter Lawrence. I actually just got his jersey not too long ago. He's probably one of my favorite players on the team. I like A'Shawn Robinson. So I feel like the defensive line is the strongest part of our defense, right? Because it's solid, man. Like if we can make sure that they remain healthy. Again, we had a lot of games last year where Leonard Williams was hurt or Dexter Lawrence was hurt. But if those guys stay healthy, they are a problem to deal with. I mean, you got Dexter Lawrence at the nose tackle position. I think had like 8 sacks or 9 sacks last year, and that's unheard of for a nose tackle, man. That's really, really good. So I give them a B. Right, if they stay healthy, they are those two, Williams and Lawrence. They're a tough pill to swallow.
Ron, what'd you give them?
I gave them a C. I like those guys. The depth is going to be a concern. They don't have a lot of depth behind those guys, so I gave them a C. I think it's going to be a lot in a long season. To expect them to stay healthy and to keep getting 65-70% of the snaps and to have success. That's a lot to ask. You gotta have guys behind them, and I don't know if they have sufficient depth along the D line.
Yeah, I gave them a C, and this is not because of the names you just mentioned, Chris. I gave them a C because they were ranked horribly last year against the run. They were ranked horribly, and when I look back and I look at the game from last year, you gave the Ravens 211 yards rushing. You actually won that game, so go figure. Then you gave the Eagles 253 yards rushing. Again, you lost that game. Then 165 yards rushing to the Cowboys. I just want to see them come up. I want to see them actually, stuff some people. I know that the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Cowboys have good offenses, but this is where you make a name for yourself, right? Forget about the individual people. Yes, I think, as an individual, they're great players. But as a group, I want them collectively to like actually stop somebody. So what happened last year? Why they give so many yards on the ground?
Yeah, man. I think it goes back to what we've been saying about the Giants the whole time, right? I think we've had a lot of games where people got injured, right? And it's hard to just put everything on, Dexter Lawrence trying to clog up the middle, linebackers not doing what they're supposed to do, right? And if your next man up isn't playing at a high quality, I mean, you're going to give it up. We had games where we gave up a lot of big runs, right? So if you think of trying to stop the damn RPO with Jalen Hurts or trying to stop J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson, like those are big time players, right? But it doesn't give us any excuse to why we shouldn't be able to do it. I mean, even with that being said, I think we were ranked like 20 something in it. But if we can't have our best players on the field, it's going to hurt us, right? And that just goes to show you. Imagine if we had everybody healthy as we should have. I feel like we'd have been way better than what we ended with. I mean, we could have been in a good fight. Or I definitely think we would have got second place in our division. I think the Eagles ran away with it for sure. But if we could stay healthy, I think the Giants could be a problem on defense. It's just, again, it goes back to the statement, right? The best ability is availability. If you get hurt, then it's tough. And to Ron's point, if you have these people playing 75, 80% of the snap, there's a good chance people get injured. That's why you need to have, you don't have to have superstars as backup, but you need to have quality backups. And if you don't do that, it's going to hurt you.
And it goes back to, to me, it goes back to the money issue. Like this, I know Getterman kind of messed it up for a showing, but you should have money available if you need good players. And I don't know why the Giants do this. I just feel like if you're like, I don't want them to be like the Dallas Cowboys who just spend. I just want them to be competitive to the point that where if they need somebody to plug in, they need some player to plug in, they can just go and get them. Let's talk about with the first game, Sunday, September 10th, Cowboys coming to town. Chris, what did you give the Giants?
I have a win for the Giants. I think it's going to be a statement game. I actually think it's going to be a statement game for Daniel Jones, right? He's going to have to come out there and prove it. And I feel like the Giants take that one. I think it's going to be, like I said, a big game. There's going to be a lot of like tension in the air. I feel like the Dallas Giants rivalry is always a big one. And starting out the Sunday night primetime game, Daniel Jones going to have a lot of scrutiny with that contract. Oh, I'm excited for it. I'm actually going to be on my honeymoon for that game, and I will be watching it probably at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm pretty excited.
All right, so Chris is going to be watching this Cowboys losing. We all agree that this should be a W for the Giants. You like the Giants as well?
Yeah, yes. I don't think it's going to be automatic, but I think I'm not sold. The Cowboys haven't been for a couple years now, so the Giants can pull this off at home.
Next game, week 2, Sunday, September 17th.
Yeah, I got to win it. I don't even know who the Cardinals have anymore, right? I feel like if they rolled us 3 out there to play the Cardinals, I think we'll give them a good chance. But I got the Giants taking that game too, starting off the season 2-0.
Yeah, I don't think we need to elaborate. Cardinals are a mess.
They're tanking.
Yeah, they're tanking for sure. Week 3, it's a Thursday game, September 21st, at San Francisco, right?
Yeah, it's at San Francisco. Yeah, we're definitely losing that game. I feel like the 49ers are so solid on defense, right? If George Kittle stays healthy, he's a problem. You got CMC out there. I don't necessarily believe in the whole Brock Purdy situation, but he just has to be a game manager to win that game. I don't think we have enough to beat them on the defensive side of the ball. So I give it to the 49ers.
Do we need to say that? Because we agree that this should be a loss for the Giants, right?
Yeah, but I think it's going to be closer. I'm not sold on Purdy either. But San Francisco defense is elite, and it's going to be tough for the Giants to go all the way out to San Francisco on a Thursday, especially, and expect to pull that one off.
I think they're staying on the West Coast because they got the Cardinals. Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
all right, that would make.
Yeah.
Well, the next game is the Seahawks coming to town. Is that right?
Yeah. The
Week
Seahawks are
4,
coming.
it's a Monday night game.
Yep.
What'd you give them, Chris?
I got us beating the Seahawks, man. I think the fuse for Geno Smith is going to fizzle out. Although a fan of the wide receiver they just drafted from Ohio State, Jackson. I can't pronounce his last name, but yeah.
Njigba,
yeah, him. I do like him, but I don't know. Like, I feel like the Giants are going to be able to pull this one out. I feel like the Giants are always that team that beats teams that necessarily they may not, or they shouldn't be able to beat. And then we wind up losing games to teams that we should beat. But I feel like we squeak one out against the Seahawks.
Ron, you think they're better than the Seahawks?
yeah, I got them winning one at home on a Monday. Seahawks are going to be a decent run-of-the-mill, 9-8 type of team. I think the Giants will be able to pull that one.
So you think they can beat the Steelers, but they can't beat the Giants?
Who can beat
The Seahawks?
I think the Steelers are going on the road, traveling overseas, to play.
Oh, because I actually got them losing to the Seattle. I think Seattle is too good. I don't like the cross-country thing. East Coast to the West Coast is just not a good travel schedule, and I think that they lose this one. Week 5, Sunday, October 8th at Miami. What'd you give them, Chris?
So I have the Giants winning that game just based off the premise that I'm going to be at that game, and we better win that game, or I'm going to lose my mind if we don't win that game. The big thing for us is Jalen Ramsey being hurt, and hopefully he doesn't come back by then. If he doesn't, I feel like it's going to be a lot better for us. I'm glad that they didn't sign Dalvin Cook. I'm glad that they didn't sign Jonathan Taylor, right? We just have to worry about Waddle and Cheetah. But I feel like the Giants come out on top against the Dolphins. At least they better, because if not, I'll be mad I spent all these monies on this damn ticket.
Okay, Ron, do you agree?
Nah, I got them losing to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a better team.
I got them losing too. I think that the Dolphins are a better team, not just because Ramsey might not be there. I just don't think that the Giants' defense is good enough. I think these high-powered offenses they're gonna have trouble against. And this is when I look at the schedule, the first couple of games, they don't play a high-powered offense until this game, and I think that's a loss.
But
sorry, Chris.
Are the Dolphins high-powered? Are they?
Offense?
I think if Tua plays, yes. If Tua doesn't play, then my goodness.
I'm not sold on Tua either, right? Like, I don't think he's like. There's been so much talk about you have Waddle and you have Cheetah, and they're so fast and they can get down the field and be explosive. But if that ball doesn't carry, right? If you can't throw it to them, that's a big problem. I'm not sold on Tua, actually. That's why I feel a lot comfortable about this game, or more comfortable than you guys. I'm not a big fan of Tua, and who knows what's going to happen in the first 5 weeks, right? Because, if he gets banged up, who do they put back there? I don't know who their backup is.
Street, right? Last name is Street.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
But, with Tua, I think they were averaging close to 30 points a game, crap like that. After he got hurt, they plummeted.
No, they plummeted.
Yeah, they plummeted.
That's why if Tua is there, I think the Dolphins win it out. If Tua is not there, their average goes down in points because it's just nobody to because Tua can run and pass. I think the Tua's backup is just pass friendly. I don't know. This is a game where we find out where the Giants defense are up to par with it. I think that this is a marquee game. Not unlike week 6 at the Bills. Chris, what'd you give them?
Yeah, I think we're all going to have the same consensus with this, even though it's painful, because I would love to give Coach Dayball his win and against his previous team, but I don't think we have enough. Yeah. So I give that win to the Bills.
Yeah, I don't think the Bills are in a different tier, and Giants are definitely not there. Although I think their defense, Bill defense, might be questionable, but I still don't think that with the offense that they have, Josh Allen, I think that should be enough. Do you agree?
I do. Now, I do think the Bills are going to take a step back, though, this year. Whether it's enough for them to beat the Bills, I don't know. I got the Bills winning. But I think it's going to be a winnable game. I think it's been a close game. But
and this is a New York battle, and usually the Giants are up for this, right? Or is it the other way around? I know upstate New York doesn't like, New York City. Bunch of liberals, a bunch of immigrants. No, English only, okay? English only.
Yep.
Week 7, Sunday, October 22nd. Against the Commanders.
And this is what I was saying earlier on, right? I feel like the Commanders are a team that we should beat, but just like last year, we tied, right? Like, I feel like it's going to be one of those situations again. And I feel like, we're going to play down to the competition, and I think we lose this game.
You think you lose this game?
Yeah.
Ron, where are you with the Commanders right now? Give us like your little
synopsis. Ron Rivera, I think, is one of the worst coaches. I think he's freaking horrendous. He's horrible. Like, what did he say last week? That it's like
that he didn't know he had a good quarterback.
Yeah, he didn't know like how good his quarterback was, or some crap like that. Then he said something the week before. I'm like, how's this dude still coaching? He's so overrated, it's ridiculous. And
then I think last year he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that a tie."
Yeah.
I mean, Chris, I know you gave him an L. I think that you beat the Commanders. I think the Commanders are a mess.
I agree. I think we should beat the Commanders. But I feel like somehow, some way, something's going to happen. Like, the football gods are just going to be on Washington's side that day. When we get to the next game, I feel like we're going to split the season series.
Yeah, but I got them splitting too.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where we're gonna try to bounce back from the Bills game, and we're going to try to do too much, and the enemy